Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. Now we are able to hear, study and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, generate supreme bodhicitta. Now we will teach on taking refuge. We previously made some introduction, so let us continue. Nowadays, through the great kindness and virtue of our guru and spiritual teachers, we are able to hear the supreme Dharma. Furthermore, we have generated even a little thought of practicing virtue and abandoning evil in our hearts. If at this time we can sincerely take refuge in the 3 jewels from the depths of our hearts, then the 3 jewels will definitely bless our mind streams, enabling our faith, pure perception, renunciation, liberation mind, firm belief in karma and so forth, and all the qualities of the holy path to gradually increase and rise directly upward. Therefore, through the kindness and blessings of spiritual teachers, we have been fortunate to hear the Dharma. And now, as we discussed previously, we have generated a little thought. I want to practice preliminaries, I want to study the Dharma, I want to become ordained, or I want to benefit sentient beings. These thoughts are extremely difficult to arise. At this time, if we feel immense gratitude toward the 3 jewels, have great faith and joy, and silently pray, this is the blessing of the 3 jewels. This is due to the merit of the 3 jewels. If so, they will definitely bless our mind streams and our bodhicitta, pure perception, faith in karmic cause and effect, and so forth. All qualities related to virtuous Dharma will naturally increase. Therefore, faith is extremely important. Even for accomplishing worldly affairs, first one must have a kind of faith. Often I have this feeling among our volunteers. Some people still have a kind of faith and enthusiasm. People actually need to be like this, just sitting here like stones, knowing nothing, having no feelings whatsoever. Such people. When we were studying before, there were such people in our class. We often called them a group of stones. This won't work. In the future, when each of our Dharma friends practices virtue, we should try our best to have a kind of faith. This is very important. Faith is like a river arrow flowing extremely swiftly. This should be stated in the Sutra Lankara. It enables the mind to swiftly reach virtuous Dharma. What does this mean? It means faith is like a river flowing most swiftly, like a river arrow, extremely swift, enabling our consciousness to rapidly tend toward virtue. With faith, your actions cannot help but be swift. Whatever you do, you will definitely receive a response. Therefore, when we pray to the 3 jewels, we must understand their qualities. We must understand that the 3 jewels have inconceivable power and blessings. After this, we naturally develop faith. Therefore, if our faith in the 3 jewels continues to increase, they will definitely bless us. And our faith, renunciation, and all qualities will gradually increase. Conversely, if we set aside or shelve taking refuge and praying to our guru and the 3 jewels, set it aside or put it on the shelf, then no matter how wonderful your current renunciation and liberation mind may be, because the external world in all its forms is skilled at deceiving people's hearts, plus our own wisdom is extremely shallow, and we ordinary people are like monkeys without independent judgment, echoing others' words, following trends, while our discriminating thoughts are easily tempted. Although we are currently practicing virtue, we can also easily turn toward evil. This point is particularly important. Actually, every paragraph of the words of my perfect teacher is indeed particularly important for every person. Each one is more precious than the last, from the beginning to the end of the words of my perfect teacher. Every single word can be said to be priceless gold and jade, wish-fulfilling jewels. Therefore, we must always take refuge in the 3 jewels and pray to the 3 jewels. If we don't do this, if praying to the 3 jewels is completely set aside, perhaps now due to different environments and different people, we have faith in the 3 jewels, and on the surface our practice of virtue seems quite good. Some practitioners also think they are quite good in all aspects, and others also think they are quite good. However, because our environment, our society, and our entire external world have extremely complex conditions in all aspects, people are particularly easily influenced by external factors. Therefore, external conditions are skilled at deceiving people's hearts and particularly good at tempting us. When we watch television, the internet, and various media and information, all of it makes us create negative karma and do bad things. 80 to 90% of such information is like this, all causing our consciousness to be distracted. External conditions have various kinds of information. Moreover, if we were like the former Venerable Longchenpa and Mipham Rinpoche, having our own definite views and extremely profound and vast wisdom, then we would not easily be changed by external temptations. Our minds would be like mountain kings. For ordinary practitioners, no matter if you go to a dazzling city, they would not be tempted by external conditions at all. But we are not like this. When we encounter any different circumstances, our minds constantly change along with external conditions. As a result, although on the surface we appear to be practicing virtue now, it's very possible that at a certain point all our practice of virtue and doing virtuous things will be completely cast aside, while we ourselves will day and night turn toward evil. This possibility exists, this danger exists. Therefore, we must clearly recognize that if we want to completely sever the continuity of negative actions in the future, there is nothing more supreme than taking refuge in the three jewels and praying to the three jewels, relying entirely on one's own strength. Some people say, when you go back, you must be careful. Don't be influenced by external factors in all aspects. When some parents let students go out to study at university or go out to work, parents often admonish, hey, when you go out, you absolutely cannot catch some of society's infectious diseases. You must control yourself. Actually, they themselves might not want to either, but in the end, they are involuntarily tempted by external conditions. There's no way around it. But at that time, what is the best, the only wonderful medicine? It is to pray to the three jewels. We also often, whether going out or doing anything, relying entirely on our own abilities indeed has certain difficulties. We must, for example, if you go out today, if you have a holiday and need to go back, think, this time all my actions will be proper and return accordingly. On one hand, I myself must definitely be careful. If you yourself don't have any ability to control the brakes, then it won't work. You'll crash. There's no way around it. But on one hand, you must be careful yourself, and on the other hand, most importantly, you must pray to the three jewels and take refuge in the three jewels. Often pray to Padmasambhava. Don't we often teach that for dispelling obstacles in practice, Tara and Padmasambhava are especially supreme in the darkness of this degenerate age. I myself, throughout the journey of my life, have personally experienced that if we often pray to the 21 Taras, or even if you don't know all 21 Taras, you can recite Tara's mantra, Om Tare Tutare Ture Svaha. Anyone can recite this. For Padmasambhava's extensive liturgies and terma for dispelling obstacles, if you can't recite these, anyone can recite Guru Rinpoche's mantra. Actually, this is our best method for dispelling obstacles. Therefore, many people think, I want my practice of virtue to have a good beginning and good end. Some monastics think, I want to maintain pure precepts, study, contemplate and meditate, and wish to spend my entire life this way. But sometimes demonic forces and obstacles are quite severe. At this time in our hearts we don't want to do many improper things, but gradually our afflictions increase and external conditions tempt us, just as explained in the treasury of Abhidharma. When various conditions come together, in the end we ourselves have no choice but to be swept away by the river of afflictions. Therefore at this time we must pray. I've often spoken of this before. In our monastery there's an old practitioner called Khenpo Legshed who often says, relying on mindfulness and vigilance to counter afflictions is also very important. But most importantly, we must often pray to the three jewels. This is very important. Praying to the three jewels is very important. Previously, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, also often taught that whether we go out or stay at home, we should always have the intention of praying to the three jewels in our hearts at all times. If we have this, then no matter where we go or where we live, our practice and virtuous character will be maintained and continued. This is also a very important matter. Everyone should remember well and repeatedly read these Vajra words. Moreover, as people say, demonic forces particularly hate diligent practitioners. The more diligent you become, as quoted from the Sutra of the Great Heap of Jewels in the Chariot of Excellence, a commentary on finding rest in illusion, demonic forces are even more. If you're not diligent every day and are lazy, demonic forces are very happy and won't harm you. Therefore, generally, lazy people, or those who don't properly study, contemplate and meditate, are particularly robust in health, have nothing wrong with them, sleep all day, don't get sick, and don't have obstacles or difficulties. If you become more and more diligent, even if major illnesses and demonic obstacles don't appear, you'll constantly cough. Therefore, those who cough here are all diligent people. They get sick, don't intentionally cough. Some people want to show they're diligent, so they cough on purpose. When the Dharma is profound, dark demons also become rampant. The deeper the Dharma becomes, virtue rises 1 foot, demons rise 10 feet. The more supreme and profound the Dharma becomes, the more extremely rampant some evil spirits and heretics become. We clearly understand that encountering this degenerate age of 5 turbidities, when practicing profound Dharma and performing vast virtuous deeds, we often face various temptations from this present dusty world. For example, sometimes pursuing fame, sometimes pursuing status. Even in our academy, sometimes when properly attending a class, some people think in their hearts, oh, I should volunteer elsewhere, go to another teacher. As a result, they don't find anything anywhere and break their lineage. Many people will encounter various worldly temptations. Also, when we practice profound Dharma, there's repeated obstruction from relatives and friends. When some people want to practice a Dharma, facing many relatives and friends, parents don't know, and they don't dare call relatives and friends. Once they call, they see how things are. Sometimes I see that it's very difficult for Dharma friends here to become ordained. I deeply rejoice in your merit and this kind of spirit. Indeed, coming here to seek the Dharma is extremely difficult. Even some lay people in our study groups have to deceive their families every day to attend a single class. Oh, our workplace is going out to have fun today. Actually, they're listening to teachings outside, but they say, today we have work, and they're organizing again. Family members say, how come you all go out to play every Sunday? Yes, our workplace loves to play every day. Our director absolutely loves to play. Therefore, when the Dharma is profound, there are more and more obstructions, plus illness and demonic obstacles. Often when the Dharma is supreme, or when your practice becomes more and more stable, various diseases and obstacles appear, layer upon layer of adverse conditions. Plus, in one's heart, there are also many doubts. Maybe this is wrong, maybe that is wrong. In this degenerate age, there are very few people who truly understand the principles of Dharma. Moreover, when the Dharma becomes deeper and deeper, one generates various discriminating thoughts. This is unreasonable, that is unreasonable, and so forth. Countless deluded thoughts and other obstacles to the true Dharma manifest in many ways to destroy our accumulation of virtuous merit. We must definitely pay attention to this point. The deeper the Dharma becomes, the more adverse conditions arise in all aspects. If we resolve to diligently practice taking refuge in the 3 jewels and other such antidotes, then all obstacles to practice will become favorable conditions and cause virtue to increase more and more. If at this time we don't easily become discouraged, we must definitely pray to the 3 jewels and take refuge in the 3 jewels. Aren't we currently practicing the 500,000 preliminaries? You should recite the refuge verses with effort, either the 4-fold refuge or 3-fold refuge verses. If you do this, then these adverse conditions that were originally obstacles will all eventually become favorable conditions. The treatise of Abhidharma, preached by Sariputra, also states, if one takes refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, This refuge is most secure. This refuge is most supreme. Taking refuge in this place, one can be freed from all suffering. If we take refuge in this, we are freed from all suffering. Therefore, if we truly understand taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three jewels, this is the best method for obtaining happiness in the world, the best skillful means for transforming obstacles into favorable conditions and increasing virtue. All suffering may temporarily manifest, and some people in the process of studying Buddhism may encounter worldly obstacles as mentioned before, or obstacles from family members, or including some diseases of their own body, poor health. Various situations will arise, but if you are very strong and think, no matter what I encounter, I will definitely strive hard. Actually, this kind of human spirit and perseverance is still very important. You can't think, I caught a cold today, oh it's no good now, I'll never study again, I'll never read books again, I'll never recite refuge again. With this kind of mentality, demonic forces have already achieved their wishes and our virtue and white dharma are thereby destroyed. It's very unfortunate. Therefore, in the process of practice, we must definitely have a kind of strong will. This is indispensable. Not only this, but in today's time, some lay people, in order to have their whole family safe and peaceful for a year, free from illness and disaster, adopt some protective measures. Thus they invite to their homes some teachers and monks who have never received any empowerments or lineages, and have never completed the basic recitation of secret mantras. This exists now too. It was even more serious when Patrul Rinpoche was alive. Some people, in order to have their families safe and peaceful, especially in Tibetan areas where there are habitual and traditional practices, for the family's protection from disasters, longevity, and general success and peace throughout the year, often seek divination and fortune-telling. Then they invite some people who have neither received empowerments nor any lineages and have never recited anything. Originally, for example, practicing Yamantaka or Hayagriva or Vajravarahi, the heart mantras of these deities must all be completed. These basic heart mantras must definitely be completed, along with the lineage and empowerments. The basic generation stage and completion stage must be completed, but they have none of these qualities. They invite such people to their homes. These teachers set up a mandala for fierce practice rituals, originally having no realization of generation or completion stages whatsoever. They just open a pair of eyes as big as bowls and generate unbearable anger toward a torma offering while saying hook, summon, kill, ya, strike, strike, and so forth. This happened before and we still hear of it now, including some lay people in Han regions inviting some monks who also perform these rituals. On the surface, they set up a mandala and then recite some rituals. Of course, in some fierce practice rituals there are also these words kill, strike, hook, summon, and so forth. Through this kind of approach, upon hearing it, one gets a feeling of fierce and menacing faces. Afterwards, all they do is make offerings of blood and flesh. If we carefully observe such phenomena, there's no difference from what Jetsun Milarepa said at that time. What did Jetsun Milarepa say at that time? He said, inviting wisdom deities to protect worldly interests is like pulling a king down from his throne and then ordering him to do sweeping. Making wisdom noble beings come down to subdue enemies and protect their patrons. All wisdom deities simply will not do this. When Milarepa was approaching parinirvana and his disciples made requests, Milarepa said all this. When we practice virtue, we should mainly embrace compassion. We absolutely cannot use superficial tantric rituals to perform subjugation activities. If so, this is created through anger and is not a genuine tantric ritual. If created through anger, all beings will fall into hell. This should also be explained in the sutra expounded to Mahasatya Nirgrantha. If one does not cultivate compassion but practices with an angry and harmful mind, although practicing various virtuous deeds, at death one enters hell. Naraka means hell, entering into hell. If one doesn't cultivate compassion but acts with anger, on the surface the rituals you recite are virtue and you do some good deeds, but actually this is a cause for falling into hell. It's extremely frightening. This is also the meaning of what Milarepa said at that time. Also, Venerable Padampa Sangye personally said, setting up tantric mandalas in village sheep pens, how can this provide remedy? It's simply very ridiculous. Because now some people have no realization whatsoever of generation stage or completion stage practice, haven't even received empowerments or recited basic secret mantras, and these people pretend to begin reciting and practicing subjugation activities. Tantric rituals have become something performed in villages, in village families that are like sheep pens. How can such behavior remedy unwholesome and inauspicious things? How could this add harmony to the family? It's quite difficult. This is very ridiculous. Therefore, such recitation of secret mantras will be tainted with the faults of Bön chanting. Bön indeed also has, on the surface, such chanting and subjugation, but actually many people have no realization. Without realization, acting this way is indeed a means of deceiving sentient beings. Of course, I'm not entirely clear whether all of Bern is like this, but indeed from the history of Tibetan areas we've seen, in Bern there were many blood and flesh offerings and teachings that did not cherish the lives of sentient beings. Therefore, this is definitely worthy of attention for our Vajrayana. Even now, there are very few teachers in Han regions who use tantric terminology and words like subjugation and union to begin leading some people into improper behavior. This must be stopped. Why is it that when Venerable Atisha came to Tibetan areas, at that time in Tibetan areas, the behavior of some monasteries and monks indeed had aspects that didn't conform with doctrine, and later they were reorganized? Are these faults of Vajrayana? No, they are not faults of Vajrayana. This must definitely be clarified. In any situation, these are individual errors. Individual errors, you cannot say these are faults of the teachings. In Vajrayana, indeed, whether subjugation practices or any teachings, all can completely withstand any examination. When measured against all Sutrayana teachings, you absolutely cannot refute any aspect of Vajrayana. But those of us who practice Vajrayana are indeed improper in some places. Some are greedy for wealth, some are greedy for sex, some are greedy for fame. When such goals exist in the heart, of course your behavior will manifest various errors. This is natural. Therefore, at that time Milarepa and Venerable Padampa both said that the current situation was not good. Actually, these two appeared in the same era. Milarepa received a prophecy in a dream saying that tomorrow Venerable Padampa would come from India to Tibetan areas. Padampa Sangye also received a dream prophecy saying he could meet Jetsun Milarepa tomorrow. This story is in the song collection. I've forgotten. The next day when Milarepa went to see, he thought, "This venerable one is very famous. Does he have psychic powers?" So he transformed himself into a flower on the road. Venerable Padampa first pretended not to know and just passed by. After passing, Milarepa thought, "Look, he didn't discover me. I became a flower and he didn't notice." Later, Venerable Padampa said, "It's not that I didn't discover. He turned back to look. Should I kick once?" Later he thought, "Milarepa is a great accomplished master. This would be disrespectful. Forget it, forget it." Later, Milarepa manifested his own body, and during their conversation, Venerable Padampa said, "I've come from India. You should warmly receive me. We should have a feast offering." When making the feast offering, Milarepa transformed his entire body into nectar and then used tammo fire to begin making soup for him. He transformed his entire body using Om Ah Hum in a very large pot, began boiling, then made the feast offering. Later, the two of them performed miracles. Apparently both sat on 2 blades of grass. Milarepa sat on 1 blade of grass, Padampa sat on 1 blade of grass. At this time, Milarepa's blade of grass seemed to bend slightly. Then Milarepa thought, "We've both cultivated vase breathing identically. Our bodies are very light. Why does my grass bend more? What's the reason?" Later, Venerable Padampa said, "This is due to the terrain of Tibetan areas. It's not that our channels, energies, and practice have differences. Anyway, there are many such stories in the biographies. These two may have had quite consistent views at that time. At that time, they thought some people's practice in Tibetan areas wasn't very good, so they both criticized. They should criticize. When criticism is warranted, one should criticize. Next it says, subjugation activities are only permitted for those without selfish thoughts, who seek to accomplish vast activities of propagating dharma and benefiting beings. Subjugation activities do exist. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are indeed subjugation activities, but not everyone can do them. You can't perform subjugation just because you can hold a Vajra dagger. It's not like that. Those without selfish thoughts who can accomplish and who clearly know, I want to subdue him and liberate him, who can accomplish activities of propagating dharma and benefiting beings, for such people it's permitted. That is to say, subduing the 10 pernicious enemies and demonic obstacles. The 10 pernicious acts will be explained below. Those who cause particularly great harm to Buddhism, destroy the 3 jewels, seize the property of the Sangha, and so forth. Such people deserve to be subdued. Moreover, if capable yogis don't subdue them, they violate tantric vows. We also mentioned this when teaching tantric precepts. If one performs subjugation with bias towards self and others, and with inherent anger, then not only can one not subdue the other party, but it becomes a cause for falling into hell oneself. If with anger, previously there was a person who came here specifically to learn subjugation. I asked, why? Because that person treated me particularly badly, so I definitely want to. As he spoke, saliva was dripping down. I said, looking at your attitude, you definitely cannot accomplish subjugation practice. This kind definitely won't work. The Sutra of the Right Mindfulness of Dharma also teaches none can protect the angry person whose mind is disturbed. People with particularly heavy anger cannot be protected. In this world and the next, they create dark karmic results. That is to say, angry people will ripen particularly bad karmic results in this life and the next life. In the future, those of us who practice Vajrayana absolutely must not go to some other teacher thinking, against my competitors, I must definitely practice subjugation to destroy their families. With this kind of tone, you definitely cannot accomplish subjugation practice. However, if we practice subjugation teachings with compassion, Mipham Rinpoche also explained in the Luminous Essence and His Holiness, Jigme Puntsok. Rinpoche also taught this in his dreams. Even if you can only manage the form, these skillful means of Vajrayana have inconceivable merit. On this point, we also cannot let everyone who doesn't know how to practice, who upon seeing union images or subjugation practices, develop aversion and anger toward them. This is also a manifestation of our particular ignorance. For many inconceivable states, when we don't have faith, we should cultivate pure perception, thinking, this is not the object of my wisdom. Those who have no realization of generation and completion stages, and whose samayas are impure, who solely make blood and flesh offerings, not only cannot accomplish wisdom deities and dharma protectors who uphold the true dharma, if you make blood and flesh offerings, or lack generation and completion stage realization, you also cannot accomplish subjugation practices. Instead, all evil spirits and demons of black magic gather together to enjoy those offerings and tormas. Although these spirits seem to bring some immediate benefits to those performing these Buddhist rituals, from a long-term perspective they will only bring us various misfortunes. Therefore, we must wholeheartedly take refuge in the 3 jewels. This is extremely important. Taking refuge in the 3 jewels is most secure. Otherwise, temporarily making blood and flesh offerings, temporarily doing some improper actions, might manifest some results, but actually, you indeed cannot obtain genuine benefit. I remember there's a story in the 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. Jetsun Milarepa had a particularly wealthy patron whose family was actually Bonpo, but this patron was not very pleased with Burn and often offered all his wealth to Milarepa and his disciples. Later, when he became ill and was near death, he told his family, "After I die, offer all my property to Milarepa and his disciples. Absolutely do not give it to the Bonpos." When he was near death, it seemed his family wouldn't handle it this way, so he became particularly angry. If you act this way, I don't want to die. Naturally, I'll commit suicide. Can you promise me that you'll definitely offer to Buddhism? Later, his family indeed made this promise, and after the promise, he died. After his death, the family didn't follow the deceased's will, as originally intended. Of course, they also invited Milarepa and Milarepa's retinue to perform Buddhist rituals on the second floor, while on the first floor they also invited Bonpo practitioners from their own clan to chant for them there. Buddhism upstairs, Bon downstairs chanting. During the chanting, when the Buddhists summoned his consciousness, there was nothing obvious. Later, the Bonpos began chanting while using blood and flesh. During their chanting, a person with long hair appeared in their mandala wearing green clothes. Then they began mocking Milarepa's sister, saying, "Your Buddhism doesn't work no matter how you summon. Look how effective our Bon is." After saying this, the sister came back and told Milarepa. Later, Milarepa said, "This is another spirit disguised as the deceased soul. If you don't believe it, go grab his finger and ask him, 'What was the secret name when Milarepa gave you empowerment at such and such time?' Just say this one sentence and you'll know." Later, when they went to this person who appeared in the mandala and said this, he ran away. Later, the Bonpo said to Milarepa, "If what we summoned wasn't the real soul, do you have this ability? Do you know what condition the deceased is actually in?" Later, Milarepa said, "The reason I cannot summon him now is that he has already been reborn in the animal realm. Under some cow dung in such and such place, he has become a small insect, so I now have no way to summon him here." Later, they didn't believe it. Milarepa went together with them to a mountain ravine. Under the cow dung that Milarepa pointed to, Milarepa began calling his name. "What was the secret name when I gave you empowerment before?" At this time, indeed, this small insect came out. After it came out, he taught it the Dharma, having it repent the karmic results of negative actions done previously. After finishing teaching, this small insect immediately died. After it died, the Bonpos and other outsiders all saw a white light appear from its body that merged into Milarepa's heart. Then Milarepa remained in this state for a while. Finally, a white letter A appeared from his heart and gradually ascended into space. Later, all the people present took refuge in Buddhism. When convenient, please look at the 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. This story is in there. From this story, we can also see that now, regardless of any religion, we are not denying them. But if we judge objectively, indeed in our Buddhism, there are many supreme teachings. But having people truly understand this may not necessarily be the majority. Therefore, we should understand this aspect. Actually, inviting teachers and monks whose mind streams are peaceful and gentle to recite 100,000 refuge verses is most secure. Actually, if some families truly want harmony and peace, you don't necessarily need to invite someone to perform particularly elaborate, various tantric subjugation activities. If you invite to your home a good teacher whom you normally know to have peaceful behavior and pure precepts, who is relatively free from greed for wealth and other things, and have him recite 100,000 refuge verses, then your family will definitely spend this year peacefully and safely. In this way, you have already entered under the protection of the three jewels. In this life, no unpleasant events will occur, and all wishes will be fulfilled. You will also receive the dedicated protection of celestial beings regarding virtuous dharma, and demonic obstacles of black magic will be unable to approach. This is particularly important, our taking refuge in the three jewels. Indeed, I'm thinking that each of us this time is practicing 100,000 refuge recitations. I hope you should have very pure and joyful hearts. Don't think, "Oh, these 100,000 repetitions are so troublesome and tiring. If I don't recite them, I can't hear secret teachings. What should I do? Should I report false numbers?" This is unnecessary. You should consider it particularly fortunate for yourself in this lifetime. Indeed, when we previously recited refugee verses, I may have had a sense of novelty, but when I heard the words of my perfect teacher, I was truly extremely joyful, like withered trees encountering spring rain, extremely joyful and elated. Every day when reciting refuge verses, I recited them with a joyful state of mind. Actually, if we recite 100,000 times for others, that family will be peaceful and safe. If we recite for all sentient beings ourselves, our own practice will also be perfected. Therefore, some teachers I know in Tibetan areas now have all vowed to definitely practice the 500,000 preliminaries once in their lifetime. Previously, many of them didn't practice. A while ago, I also spoke with them about this. If you come to this world without even practicing the 500,000 preliminaries once, it's indeed quite regrettable. Reciting 100,000 refuge verses is also eternal protection for oneself. How fortunate and joyful it is to recite such verses before the three jewels. People without merit definitely have no opportunity to recite such things. Therefore, sometimes I see people without merit who are unwilling to practice preliminaries. They have another excuse. I practice such and such dharma. I practice pure dharma. Or they say this is how and how. Many people nowadays are particularly pitiful. There's no way. Therefore, I think everyone must definitely recite 100,000 refuge verses. In this way, evil spirits and heretics cannot approach you, and dharma, protectors of virtue, will often protect you. Here it gives an example. Previously, there was a thief who was caught by his victim. The victim recited refuge verses while beating him with a stick. For example, reciting, I take refuge in Buddha once, then striking once. It says in parentheses here, fourfold refuge, but actually threefold refuge is also fine. After finishing the beating, he let him go. Then in his heart, he thought, the sound of the refuge verses and his own pain became indivisible. The resonant sound kept echoing in his mind. It wasn't this person just now. Actually, this story is in the Sutra Lankara. He was someone who recited threefold refuge, not fourfold refuge. The mark I made here might mean threefold refuge is okay. How did he recite? He was a monk. This monk was often having his things stolen by thieves. Once when he was at home, when the thief began stealing, he discovered him. After discovering him, he said, Thief, you steal my things every day, but today you don't need to steal. Extend your hand and I'll give you what you need. The thief thought it was real and extended his hand through the door crack. After he extended his hand, the monk immediately grabbed it. After grabbing it, he tied him up with rope. In that hole, he had already tied his hands. He probably extended both hands. After both hands came in, the person was outside while both hands were tied inside the hole. After tying him up, he took a stick. Sangye la kyab suchyo. Then he struck once. He was actually reciting refuge verses. He might have been practicing the 500,000 preliminaries. He said, Sangye la kyab suchyo, and then struck once. Then he himself also repeated it once. Sangye la kyab suchyo. Then he made him recite again. He was deliberately punishing him. Cho la kyab su chyo, gendun la kyab su chyo. After striking 3 times, he let him go. Considering it finished, he let him return. After going back, this sound from before kept resonating clearly in his mind. Sangye la kyab su chyo, cho la kyab su chyo. While sitting under a bridge, this sound kept resonating. He lay down under a bridge, and at this time many demons came onto the bridge. They said, There's someone here who takes refuge in the 3 jewels. We dare not cross the bridge. And they left noisily. Actually, this person wasn't intentionally taking refuge. It was just that this scene kept continuing. He couldn't sleep, so at night he hid by the bridge, continuously thinking, I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha. Probably when something significant happens to us during the day, it keeps turning in our minds at night as well. At this time, these demonic forces ran away. Why did they run away? Because he was thinking of the 3 jewels, remembering the 3 jewels. Actually, he wasn't sincerely taking refuge. It was just refuge due to the punishment he had received earlier. Therefore, even under others' coercion, whether reciting with our mouths or remembering in our hearts under others' coercion, there is such great merit. Therefore, we must definitely think that the merit of taking refuge in the 3 jewels is inconceivable. Of course, here I might need to clarify something for everyone. A very few people, some people in Han regions now, say that in Tibetan Buddhism there is 4-fold refuge. Lama la kyab suchyo, Sangye la kyab suchyo, Cho la kyab suchyo, Gendun la kyab suchyo. Many of them say fourfold refuge is unreasonable. One person even said, fourfold refuge kills people. How pitiful. It's really very pitiful. What is their reasoning? It's from the Sutra Lankara just mentioned, because it says here that he was still thinking of Buddha's compassionate blessings. Otherwise, if there were fourfold refuge, fivefold refuge, or sixfold refuge with more, wouldn't I have been beaten to death? He thought, this Buddha is truly good. He only taught threefold refuge. If there were more, wouldn't I have been beaten to death? This was just a thought in his mind. But now some people say that because the sutra says fourfold refuge is unreasonable, if there were more, this and that would happen. Actually, this is a completely and particularly ridiculous fallacy. Why? This story only explains that in this particular situation, it would be better not to have too many refuges. That's what he thought. It doesn't mean that overall fourfold refuge harms all people. It's not this meaning. Therefore, looking at the entire plot of this story, this is also crystal clear. Moreover, fourfold refuge actually has nothing unreasonable about it. Why do I say this? For example, we acknowledge threefold refuge to the three jewels, then add refuge to the guru. Regarding guru refuge, I estimate this should have been added by some great masters in Tibetan areas, refuge to the teacher. The history of the previous refuge to teacher is not very clear, but it should have been added this way. But after adding this, there's nothing unreasonable about it. Why? If you cannot take refuge in the guru, for example, if this guru were a demon, you could say adding refuge to teacher would cause us great harm. That would be fine. Actually, gurus in both Han Chinese Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism are worthy of refuge. For example, the Susiddhikara Sutra from Han regions also teaches, the disciple's dharma is to view the acharya just like the three jewels. The disciple's dharma is to view the acharya as indivisible from the three jewels, just like the three jewels. Also, the great debate on the right and wrong sutra, which is also very famous in Han regions, also states, one who makes the unknowing know is a spiritual teacher, one who makes the unawakened awaken is a spiritual teacher, one who makes the unrealized realize is a spiritual teacher, one who makes the uncomprehending comprehend is a spiritual teacher, making us truly awaken, making us understand. All comes through the power and blessings of spiritual teachers. In this way, taking refuge in the three jewels is extremely important. And all the three jewels and Buddhism, through whose power did they enter our world? It is through the power of spiritual teachers. Without spiritual teachers, there would be absolutely no way for us to obtain the true meaning of Buddhism. The Flower Ornament Sutra also states, respect and revere all spiritual teachers. Why? Because they fulfill beings' hearts like wish-fulfilling jewels. Actually, taking refuge in the four jewels, we call them the four jewels. Taking refuge in the three jewels and taking refuge in the four jewels have no difference. Why? The Flower Ornament Sutra says the Guru is a jewel. I just explained this. Respect and revere all spiritual teachers. They fulfill beings' hearts like wish-fulfilling jewels. Also, a while ago I quoted that scriptural source. The Sutra of Instructions to the King states, this Acharya is no different from Buddha. The Acharya Guru has no difference from Buddha. Also, the great Tantra of the Net of Illusion states, this Vajra Acharya is all the Tathagatas. Our Guru is indivisible from the Tathagatas. He is the Tathagata. In this way, you take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Plus the Acharya, who is indivisible from the Tathagata, taking refuge in the Guru. Would this kill you? These people are truly too ignorant. They don't understand any principles and speak nonsense. Sometimes when I see such people, for example, if you cannot take refuge in the Guru, including Tibetan Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, any sect, you absolutely cannot take refuge in demons or stones. If these were placed among the three jewels, that would be unreasonable. But for any of us, for example, some liturgies of Chinese Buddhism, these liturgies are not necessarily all spoken by Buddha, but Buddha said this here. Buddha said that When all compiled into morning and evening prayers, it doesn't kill you. So if this passage and that passage of Buddha's words are all compiled into one liturgy, what's unreasonable about this? When I often recite refuge verses for others, sometimes I follow the Sutra of Great Liberation, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I use threefold refuge to recite for everyone. Sometimes I follow what's explained in our Tibetan verses. I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha. I use fourfold refuge to recite for others. It's the same, with no difference. For example, a gold ring brought from India, and on this gold ring, if you place a diamond from Tibetan areas on top, gold is valuable, and diamonds are also valuable. Because this diamond is placed on the gold ring, you say, wow, now it's no good. Isn't this extremely foolish? Therefore, we now see very few people in Chinese Buddhism who take passages out of context to begin refuting. Actually, you yourself, people who can't even understand basic three-part reasoning and logical relationships absolutely cannot topple the great mountain of Tibetan Buddhism's sharp wisdom sword. I think some people can be said to be daydreaming, extremely ridiculous. Not revealing one's ignorant appearance is best. Otherwise, if using this kind of reasoning, I think many people nowadays are completely irresponsible with language, without any principles whatsoever. Just seeing one passage or one sentence, they begin to slander. In this way, it might not kill people, but your own words will cause you to forever sink in hell, experiencing immeasurable and boundless suffering. It's truly very pitiful. Therefore, here I'll add this brief comment. So if we sincerely take refuge in the three jewels from our hearts, we can dispel all harm in this life, and in future lives we will attain liberation and omniscient fruition, inconceivable merits. If we take refuge in the three jewels, indeed we can dispel all harm in this life. When encountering any kind of harm, first take refuge in the three jewels. This is very important. When encountering anything, even just a little frightening situation, take refuge in the three jewels. The Immaculate Sutra also teaches this. If the merit of taking refuge had form, filling all of space, it would exceed space itself. If it truly had form, even the realm of space could not contain it. Therefore, the merit of taking refuge is immeasurable and cannot be expressed in words. Therefore, when we ourselves have various conditions, we ourselves also cannot abandon the refuge vow. When we have conditions, we should also let others take refuge, or through other methods they can also take refuge. Previously, the Miscellaneous Treasures Sutra tells of a man who had two daughters. One daughter was particularly devout, believed in the three jewels, and later attained arhathood. His second daughter didn't believe in the three jewels. Later, her father thought of a way and said to his daughter, "If you take refuge in Buddha, I'll give you 1,000 gold pieces. If you take refuge in the three jewels and uphold the 5 precepts, I'll give you 8,000 gold pieces." This daughter was particularly greedy for wealth, so she began taking refuge for money. After taking refuge, she later died and was reborn in the celestial realm. Upon being reborn in the celestial realm, she saw that through the merit of her previous refuge, she had attained a fortunate rebirth. To repay her father's kindness, she came to the world, and moreover, listening to Dharma before Buddha, she later attained the fruition of stream entry. Therefore, some of us whose parents and relatives, many of you, unlike in our Tibetan areas, don't believe in Buddhism. If they really don't believe in Buddhism, and if you have financial capability, you could say to your parents, "If you take refuge, I'll give you a salary of 100 yen per month." Would that work? Then, in the condensed transcendent wisdom that we translated, I couldn't find this. Perhaps it's explained in other Prajnaparamita sutras. If the merit of taking refuge had form, even the 3 realms would be too small a container. Is this there? It seems I haven't seen it. If refuge had form, then the entire 3 realms couldn't contain it. The ocean is the treasury of water. The ocean is originally the source of water, like a warehouse of water. How could a treasury container measure it? How could the treasury of water, the ocean, be measured by treasury containers? It's a unit of measurement. How could it possibly measure this? Therefore, the merit of taking refuge in the 3 jewels is quite great. The Sutra of the Heart of the Sun also teaches which being takes refuge in Buddha. 100 million demons cannot harm them. Even if they break precepts and their minds are scattered, they will definitely tend toward nirvana. This already explains that if we take refuge in the three jewels, especially taking refuge in Buddha, if we take refuge in Buddha in our hearts, then 100 billion demons cannot harm you. Moreover, even if this person received pratimoksha vows or other precepts and later broke those precepts, or has mental instability, scattered mind, or madness because in their heart they take refuge in Buddha, they will not fall into lower realms and can attain nirvana and liberation. Therefore, those who truly do not abandon the three jewels from their hearts will indeed not fall. Even in life-threatening danger, they don't abandon them, just as it's told in the biography of our Guru, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche. During the Cultural Revolution, there was someone who demanded that the Guru abandon the three jewels and slandered Buddhism as superstition. There was someone called Tsultrim Gyale or something. He was particularly bad. The Guru often spoke of this. He said, Jigme Phuntsok, you must abandon the three jewels. If you don't abandon the three jewels, the Communist Party's policies are getting better and better. At a certain point, even regret will be too late. He cursed him every day. Later, once he absolutely insisted that he abandon the three jewels, His Holiness said, I will absolutely never abandon them, and if I must abandon the three jewels, it doesn't matter if I die. He said, I'll give you 3 days. If you don't abandon them by then, I'll give you an answer. Then they prepared to hold a big meeting to make His Holiness say that Buddhism is superstition. It seems at that time His Holiness and they lived in a ravine called Ziking. Then on his way home he got drunk and later died. Within 3 days he himself had already left this world. Also, I saw a Geshe Lamrimpa from Lhasa, namely Ngawang Phuntsok, who was also criticized during the Cultural Revolution and required to abandon the three jewels. Not only did he not abandon them, he openly proclaimed the merits of the three jewels. Then others advised him, absolutely don't do this, your life is also threatened. He said, it's fine. Bright lamps are needed in times of darkness. Our spirit of not abandoning the three jewels should be revealed even more in times like this. He absolutely insisted on holding his head high to proclaim this. Therefore, these great masters definitely have particularly moving stories. We cannot abandon them. If we don't abandon them, then we also have such merits. Actually, the Sutra of the Heart of the Sun is also available in Chinese. I remember the scriptural citation seems slightly different. If there are beings who take refuge in Buddha, such people fear not 1 billion demons. How much more so for crossing the flow of birth and death to reach the shore of unconditioned nirvana? It might be expressed this way. It's slightly different from this translation, but the meaning is generally the same. In summary, when we take refuge in Buddha, or when other beings hear the names of the three jewels, these beings will also not fall into lower realms. This point is very important. The Sutra of Great Liberation also teaches that when we usually see some yaks or many fish about to die in the market, at such times we should recite refuge verses and the names of Amitabha and Shakyamuni Buddha. If animals hear the names of all Buddhas, this is explained in the omniscient light sage Not Eating Meat Out of Compassion Sutra. If animals hear the names of all Buddhas, they will forever leave the 3 evil paths and not be born in the 8 difficult circumstances. This means that if they hear Buddha's name, they will not be reborn in hell as hungry ghosts or as animals, and also what we often mention, the 8 difficult circumstances, which are the 8 freedoms. They will not be reborn in any of the 8 freedoms. Therefore, we must definitely believe that this is what Buddha said. It definitely has such great merit. The seas may dry up, the Asura palaces may fall, the sun and moon may fall down, but the world-honored one's words never deceive. The seas may dry up, the Asura palaces may perhaps have times when they collapse, and the sun and moon may possibly have times when they fall, but Buddha's Vajra words will never deceive others. Therefore, we must definitely have sincere faith in Buddha's words. From this we can see that taking refuge has immeasurable merit. Therefore, we should diligently cultivate refuge, the root of all true Dharma. Everyone must practice seriously and with joyful hearts. I practice the 500,000 preliminaries with particular fortune and joy. You should definitely practice using retreat methods if possible. If retreat methods really don't work, the quantity must definitely be completed. If even 100,000 repetitions cannot be completed, didn't I mention the other day that Lama Tendra recited the King of Aspiration prayers 1,000,000 times? Think about it. The King of Aspiration prayers 1,000,000 times, and the Avalokiteshvara mantra 600 million times. This isn't easy. If we can't even manage 100,000 repetitions, 4 lines, 1 verse, 100,000 repetitions we can't recite, then let's see whether we have diligence or not. We don't have diligence. Everyone must practice very seriously. Now, the final summary. Although we have taken refuge, our sincere faith is weak. Although we have received the 3 trainings, we still abandon maintaining precepts. For myself and all mindless beings like me, may unshakable firm faith be blessed. Patrul Rinpoche speaks with very humble language. Although we have taken refuge in Buddha for a very long time, our faith in the 3 jewels is extremely fragile. Although we have received the 3 trainings, we could say the 3 trainings of discipline, concentration, and wisdom, or the 3 trainings of precepts, bodhisattva vows, tantric vows, and individual liberation vows, we have not maintained them well. Patrul Rinpoche says, myself and mindless ones like me. On the surface, people appear to have minds, but actually they don't consider themselves at all, like stones without minds, such beings. May the 3 jewels bless us so our faith never retreats, and bless us so our faith increases more and more. Therefore, previously, Khenpo Ngawang Pelzang and some lineages often use this prayer at the end. When practicing each preliminary, they would use this for dedication at the end. For myself and beings like me, may their faith not retreat, and may faith in the 3 jewels definitely increase more and more. As I quoted earlier, if you have faith, everything is possible. Faith comes first among all dharmas. Once you have faith, everything becomes manageable. I'll pray, no problem. I'll practice preliminaries, I'll do prostrations. There's a kind of enthusiasm. If there's no faith at all, have to attend class. When you see something to eat, your eyes start to open. But when doing practice, your eyes close. This is not good. The guidance on refuge, the foundation of all holy paths, is complete. In this semester, we have finished teaching refuge. A while ago, in my New Year's message, I also gave an account to people in study groups outside. I personally think that previously, with the condensed transcendent wisdom, the way of the Bodhisattva, and also the treasury of cognition and reasoning, in these recent years, we started around August 2006 providing internet and CD access for those outside. It's been close to 5 years. During this time, we've also taught some major treatises. Many Dharma friends here have also listened this way. It's extremely difficult. I hope that if we don't encounter any special obstacles or difficulties, we'll continue studying, contemplating, and meditating. Study, contemplation, and meditation must never be abandoned, no matter where we are. Establishing such a Dharma banner is extremely important. The guidance on taking refuge in the 3 jewels has been completed. Okay.
Sonandai Tamse Prabhaya Tonani Vedana Pasit Kirgana Jirano Chupai Chupun Sonen Dravadvasya
Bandarangara Badma Asadarda Bandarangara Badma Asadarda Bandarangara Badma Asadarda